Have you ever been so busy winning the day, hitting those quarterly targets, clearing out your inbox, that you just stop asking if that win will even matter in 6 months?
Mm. We get so caught up in the immediate applause.
Exactly. We're just swimming in metrics that validate us right now.
And that bias, the tyranny of the urgent, that's the real core of what we're looking at in this deep dive.
Right.
Our source material is all about challenging leaders to look past that temporary applause and to cultivate, well, what we're calling an eternal perspective.
Which sounds big, but what does that mean practically?
It's really just about measuring your impact in decades or maybe even lifetimes, not just in days or quarters. And the key insight here is that this kind of long-term focus, it isn't a distraction.
Right.
It's actually a massive competitive advantage that goes way beyond those fleeting, superficial wins.
So our mission today is to figure out why leaders, even the ones with the best intentions, get so trapped in that short-term cycle.
Yeah, and then we're going to pull out the specific strategies, the historical templates from the sources to give you some really actionable tools to maintain that legacy-focused vision.
Without hopefully drowning everyone in theory.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the trap itself. What are the actual pressures, the real operational forces that narrow a leader's vision and leave behind what you call temporary footprints?
The sources are pretty clear on this. They identify three specific forces that just systematically distort a leader's ability to hold a long-term vision.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is organizational politics. This is where your priorities just sort of subtly shift.
Away from the mission.
Exactly. Away from mission integrity and towards, chasing internal popularity or influence. You're spending more energy making sure the right people are happy with you than making sure you're doing the right thing.
That makes so much sense. You're focused on keeping your job, not doing the job.
Precisely. And that leads right into the second threat, which is the popularity contest.
Making decisions to get that immediate applause.
Yes, from stakeholders, from investors, from the media. It's the move that looks fantastic in tomorrow's press release, but completely hollows out the company's foundation over time.
And the third one.
This one might be the most insidious. It's crisis-driven management. When you're constantly just reacting to emergencies, you sacrifice strategy.
You're just putting out fires.
All day long. You become a manager of survival, not an architect of vision. You completely lose the ability to even see the horizon.
And that lure of instant gratification is just so powerful. The sources give a really stark contemporary example of this. The collapse of Theranos.
Oh, Theranos is the textbook case. Leadership there was absolutely desperate for rapid market visibility, and this is critical, continuous investor acclaim.
They needed that next round of funding.
Always. And that pressure to signal success meant that, reality had to be obscured. They prioritized the optics, the look of success over scientific truth and foundational integrity.
They must have justified it to themselves somehow.
Oh, I'm sure they did. They convinced themselves the end goal was so grand that these little temporary compromises were worth it.
But they weren't temporary, were they? They were foundational cracks.
Precisely. The rise was dazzling, but the fall just demonstrated how incredibly fragile any success is when it's grounded only in short-term thinking. It completely destroyed the organization.
And it wasn't just the financial damage.
No, the real cost was the permanent damage to public trust in that entire sector. It was massive.
And, this isn't just a Silicon Valley thing. The sources draw this really powerful parallel to the parable of the rich fool from the Bible.
Yeah, in Luke's gospel, it's such a timeless caution against prioritizing immediate accumulation, building bigger barns over what you could call eternal stewardship.
The mistake wasn't being rich.
Not at all. His mistake was assuming that what he could see and count right now secured his future. He measured his whole life by the visible. And any leadership that only focuses on that, on the immediately measurable, it might see a quick surge, but it just can't last.
So, okay. If short-term thinking is the trap, what does leadership that's anchored in the long term, in that eternal lens, what does that actually look like in practice?
We have to look at leaders who modeled a kind of radical long-term focus. And the ultimate template, the sources cite, is the Apostle Paul. His measure of success was never about transient approval.
It was about lasting influence.
Lasting influence and keeping the faith. He wasn't focused on the size of his audience that day. He was focused on finishing his ultimate purpose.
He has that line in 2 Timothy, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race.
I have kept the faith. Exactly. And fixing his eyes on that finish line, that implies two things for a leader today. perseverance, and a really, really clear definition of what the finish line even is for your organization.
He also provides this kind of internal compass. We fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. How does focusing on the unseen translate for, say, a modern executive?
It means you're investing in the things that are hard to put on a quarterly balance sheet.
Like culture.
Culture, character, the capacity of your team, relationships. These things give you an exponential return over 10 years, but they look like a cost center this quarter. The unseen is the foundation.
That requires so much patience. And this principle, it guided other historical figures too, like Augustine.
Absolutely. Think about it. Augustine wrote The City of God while the Roman Empire was literally collapsing around him. The biggest, most immediate crisis you can imagine.
Instead of just panicking?
He articulated an enduring vision of something eternal. His work wasn't meant to solve the siege of Rome that year. It was meant to provide a theological framework that has shaped thought for, 1,600 years? That is enduring work.
Or William Wilberforce. He didn't end the slave trade with one big splashy win.
No, it was decades. A grueling, politically painful campaign. Wilberforce is the perfect example of prioritizing lasting righteousness over immediate popularity. He took so much abuse for it.
So long-term leaders have to be willing to be unpopular in the short term.
They have to be prepared for it, yes. His perspective wasn't anchored in winning the next vote. It was anchored in achieving lasting freedom.
And that courage, that willingness to take a short-term hit brings us to the contemporary example from the sources, CEO Emma.
Right. So Emma ran a global tech firm, and she was under immense pressure to cut costs like her rivals were.
Which usually involves some ethical compromises.
Often, yes. Compromises in sourcing, labor, and she just refused. She insisted on total transparency, ethical sourcing, responsible practices, even though it meant higher costs right now.
And what happened? How did the market react?
Oh, investors were furious. Her stock didn't shoot up as fast as her competitors. It was a conscious, painful, short-term sacrifice.
But then what?
But then, over the next decade, that unimpeachable reputation became the company's single greatest asset. It attracted fiercely loyal customers and top-tier talent who wanted to work for a company with purpose.
And it probably protected them from scandals that hit their rivals.
It absolutely did. Her principled stand created a legacy of trust that translated directly into sustainable long-term value.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical for you listening. We get the why. We've seen the templates. What are the specific operational tools that the sources provide for shifting our daily focus to that horizon?
It has to start with structured, intentional reflection. The first tool is something we can call the vision alignment exercise.
So it's not just a to-do list review.
No, not at all. You take every current initiative, every project, every key decision, and you measure it against your desired legacy outcome. You have to ask a really tough question.
Which is?
Does this move me closer to the legacy I want to leave, or is it just solving an immediate problem? Or, is this decision building gold, or am I just stacking hay?
But that kind of deep, reflective work takes time. Slow time. And how do you justify that to a board that's demanding immediate ROI this quarter?
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that put your job on the line?
That is the crucial point of friction. And the sources argue that protecting that time is the highest form of strategic management. And that leads to the second set of tools, reflection and spiritual disciplines.
Okay.
But we're looking at them through a strategic lens. For instance, a practice like Lectio Divina, the slow, prayerful reading of a foundational text like Scripture, isn't just a spiritual exercise.
It's a cognitive tool.
It's a method for disrupting the speed and superficiality of how we normally process information. You're deliberately slowing down your brain to resist that bias toward immediate reaction. It lets deeper wisdom surface.
You're making sure your deepest values are actually informing your fastest decisions. What about the idea of Sabbath? How is that a strategic tool?
Yeah, Sabbath rhythms are presented not as a religious rule, but as a strategic defense against burnout and short-sightedness.
By forcing a stop.
By institutionally stopping work, you protect your capacity for clear, long-term thought. Most bad short-term panic decisions happen when leaders are just perpetually exhausted. Sabbath preserves your purpose.
So rest becomes a core part of your strategy, not a luxury. Okay, and the last tool has to do with making this last beyond you.
It has to, and that's the third tool, mentoring and multiplication. An eternal perspective demands that your influence multiplies beyond your own career.
The sources cite Paul again here, telling Timothy to entrust his teachings to reliable people.
Who will also be qualified to teach others. It's succession planning, but elevated to mission criticality. If your entire impact stops the day you leave, you failed the eternal test.
It's not about building an empire for yourself.
No, it's about building capacity that endures. Leaders have to set aside serious, non-negotiable time for this.
So if we start using these tools, our entire definition of success has to change. We love our quantitative metrics, profits, numbers, clicks, but this demands something else.
It completely flips the script. It privileges qualitative outcomes, the development of character in your people, deep spiritual growth, the multiplication of influence. And the sources point to an ultimate assessment framework for this, the test of fire.
From 1 Corinthians, explain that in modern terms. What's the difference between building with wood, hay, or straw versus gold, silver, or costly stones on a P&L sheet?
Okay, so the test of fire forces you to assess your work by its lasting value.
Yeah.
Wood, hay, or straw, that's all the temporary stuff.
The viral campaign.
The viral campaign, the reactive maneuver, the thing done just for immediate attention, when the test of time comes, it just burns up, it's gone.
So the gold, silver, costly stones.
That's the enduring work. Foundational infrastructure, deep talent development, genuine culture. These are the investments that hold up during a market shock or political instability. They create resilient, sustainable value long after the initial buzz is gone.
And there's a great story that illustrates this about a nonprofit leader named Miriam.
Yeah, Miriam ran a youth development organization. She was facing huge pressure to chase funding through these high-visibility, flashy campaigns.
Quick hits for media attention.
Right. And she resisted. She chose instead to prioritize these deep, multi-year mentorship programs and intensive training for her staff. The results were slow. No big headlines for years.
But the outcome must have been different.
Over a decade, that relational investment produced profound, enduring life transformation that actually shaped entire communities. She chose to invest in the gold capacity and character over the hay of a flashy campaign.
So for you listening, the sources recommend 3 practical habits to start integrating this. First, invest in mentorship.
To guarantee that multiplication of influence.
The second, outcome prioritization. Make sure your decisions build character and capacity.
And third, legacy journaling. Don't just record what you did. Reflect on why you did it and how it aligns with that decades-long mission.
So the final synthesis here is that leadership, when you see it this way, it's a marathon.
It demands perseverance. It requires an unwavering focus on the finish line of lasting influence, even when everything around you is screaming to look at the scoreboard right now.
And that takes real courage, a real immediate sacrifice. The sources mention James, a mid-level executive who had to choose between quick funding that compromised his mission or slower, cleaner funding.
And he chose integrity. He temporarily lost out, but the credibility he preserved became the foundation for much greater, more sustainable growth in the long run. That's the cost and the reward.
And that opportunity for you to redefine your own metrics, it starts now.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. Are your leadership choices aimed at immediate recognition, at applause, or are they building a legacy that will resonate and multiply for generations to come? The way you answer that really determines the true weight of your impact.